So coming out with a very live podcast again, super, super raw. And what I want to talk today about is what I've learned this week and this month. And there's some huge golden nuggets you can take away from this episode of the podcast that you can practically implement into your own life, your own business. And if you take a lot of value from this, the one thing I ask is that you take a screenshot of this, you share it to your stories, and you get more people to listen to the podcast, because I just want to share more of my knowledge, more of it in a raw fashion, and document really what I'm doing so that I can give other people the path to go and follow. Because the biggest struggle I had when I was younger was not knowing what to do. And now it's my mission to help other people know what to do and remove the anxiety, remove the overwhelm, so you know how to build the business you want, how to create the freedom you want, how to create the life you want. Now, what have I learned this week, this month, and what's been the biggest things that I've focused on? I'm going to talk to you today about what I like to call the sprint method. Now, the sprint method is very much how my mind likes to work. And I see life in a lot of respects like a marathon that's run like a sprint. If you look at like the best marathon runners in the world, they literally sprint the whole way around the marathon. It's insane. And this is almost how we need to work in terms of our business and our life, is you constantly need to be moving faster. And one of the big values of me and my business is speed of implementation and progress over perfection. And one of the biggest reasons people really struggle in life is they're expecting to be perfect at everything. You are never going to be perfect at everything from the beginning. Like, you will suck at the start because you've not done the thing before. When I'm trying to learn something new, I am going to suck. I was really bad at a lot of things when I started my business. And if I look back now of what I know now versus what I used to know, I would be 1,000 times more successful if I had the skill sets and knowledge I have now. But I have those skills and I have that knowledge from going through the pain, making lots and lots of mistakes, but just keep turning up. And what I like to say is you need the 2 R's. You need to be relentless and you need to be resilient. And what I like to do in terms of my sprint methodology, in terms of can be for you getting in great shape, which is something I could talk about, and also in terms of building the business and the life you want, is I like to break things up into like 4 to 6 week sprints, which is ironically one of the reasons why I travel a lot, because I tend to like hammer myself, then I go away for a week, 10 days, work slightly less, get remotivated, re-inspired. I then come back to Dubai and then I'll hammer myself again. And it's interesting doing this podcast the day before I'm about to fly to Marbella for 3 months, because it's given me a lot of time to reflect. That we're now like 6 months into the year. What have I done? What have I not done? Where could I improve? And I've moved a lot of things forward very quickly by using the sprint method. So I will literally for 4 or 5 weeks plan out, okay, like what's the big problem I need to solve in my business and my life? Cool. This is the 1 to 2 things. Like, this is the point of constraint. I'll figure that out. And then I will break down how can I basically achieve this goal, and then put these tasks and the things I need to do spread out over a calendar, over a month. And I use something called Notion Calendar, which literally lets you specifically put tasks in at certain dates. And the beauty of this, it stops you getting overwhelmed. I have always suffered with anxiety and being super overwhelmed, but I just like to bury it with being really, really busy. And I think there's probably a lot of people listening to this who can relate to that. And the big thing for you, if you want to be successful, is be very organized, because you're going to be less stressed and it's going to allow you to be the best version of yourself. So plan out a 4-week sprint. What is it you need to do? What is it you need to achieve? Break those down into a calendar of when you need to do X, Y, Z thing. Put them in your diary and then actually make them happen. And this is as simple as it gets. Now, one of the reasons people get massively overwhelmed when it comes to, say, for example, business, like, oh, I need to do all this stuff. Well, welcome to the reality of the real world. You will never have a to-do list which is empty. There is always more. There's always problems. There's always things that need to be fixed. And the secret for you to understand is that's okay. But the most important thing you need is to prioritize. What's the one thing you can do that can solve the biggest problem? And what's the biggest problem you need to solve? And when you're going to come and do any task, you also have to think to yourself, what problem does this solve? And I say that a lot to the team my team who work with me. Like, they want to do something, okay, cool, that's great, but what problem does this solve? We don't have an issue with X, Y, Z, so why are we trying to solve that problem? And one of the things I've learned about myself the last few weeks is I'm really good at marketing, so my natural tendency is to try and solve every problem in business with marketing. Now, the reality is you can only market so far. Whereas if you actually improve your team, for example, from a sales perspective, you end up making way more money and being way more successful with like less of like without having to hammer yourself in terms of marketing. So a really important thing is actually look at the data in your business, which most people don't do. So if you have, say, for example, an info product business, like a fitness business where you sell stuff over the internet, you need to look at how many calls you're booking every single day, how many calls are showing up, how many outbound conversations you're starting every single day, what's your closing rates on calls, what's your cash collected per call. Like, these are really, really basic numbers. And I would also go and track how much reach you're getting every single week, because you need to know how much traffic and how many eyeballs you're getting, because best known beats best, and you need to get eyeballs into your account and into you to grow your business. And what happens with this is it gives you momentum. I like to call it the big mo. When you have momentum, life is easy. Your team can feel momentum. And what I think is important for you listening to this right now, you can give yourself momentum by literally using blunt force and huge amounts of drive, energy. And if you don't know what to do, then that's probably the point you need to watch a load of my YouTube videos. You need to ask someone to help you, ask someone who's done the thing you want to do. And I don't care if that's me or that's someone else. I will say I'm the only person who's done the thing and is still doing it in terms of running a really successful online coaching business. And then is also teaching other people exactly how we do that. So you can take your own advice from that. But the sprint method, give yourself 4 weeks to really hammer it, set a goal, and then give yourself a few days or a week where you refresh, you work slightly less, you let your batteries recharge and you go again. So for me, I always find that when I come back to Dubai, I'm sitting on the plane, I'm like chomping at the bit to go. But by the time I'm going to leave Dubai again, I'm like, oh, I need to get out of here. I feel like pretty jaded. It's really nice to leave. And that's where, like, even this morning, I sat and I reflected, what are the big things I want to achieve this summer? Because I'm going to Marbella for 3 months. And a lot of those are more fixing some of the own things in myself in terms of like my own soul and spirit, and not getting too dragged into just focusing on business and all this other stuff. Like, what are the other things that are actually important that I want in life, so I can be what I really want. And what I want is mastery of self. So like every aspect of myself to be the best version I can be, so that I can help other people do that, the same thing, because it's not easy. And I understand it's not easy because I know how hard it is, and I have a huge amount of respect for everyone who works for themselves, runs their own business, and you really, really step up to see what actually you need to do. So best advice I can ever give you, work in sprints, like 4 to 5 weeks, give yourself an easier week, then chill out. The second piece of advice to do is this: sit down every single morning and write your goals in present tense. So I write, I have a net worth of X amount. I now write, and I did this for a while, I drive my supercar to the gym. I now actually drive my supercar to the gym, and I'm about to do it after filming this video. And when I write that now every day, I'm like, holy shit, I've done that. Like, I bought that car outright, that's sick. Like, that gives me confidence. That's the big mode, the momentum we spoke about earlier. So you need to get momentum into your life to then get progression, to then get confidence. Because success and confidence is a loop. And the reason most people don't get success or confidence is they're not actually doing anything in the loop to try and get success or confidence. So like, if you're in a position right now, you're unhappy and you're working loads but nothing's working, something needs to change. And the definition of insanity from Albert Einstein is doing the same thing over and over again, yet expecting to get a different result. So if you're in a point now where something isn't working in your life, you're not in shape, you haven't got the business you want, you haven't got the relationship you want, you need to change it. One of the things I've done over the last 4 weeks is a really aggressive dieting phase to get super jacked and get in shape for summer, because I knew I was off pace where I needed to be, so I had to really knuckle down. So that was part of my 4-week sprint was, okay, cool, I came back from America like start of May, I need to nail this the next 4 weeks, and I dropped an inch off my waist in 4 weeks. And this is just a testament in terms of what you can do in terms of using the sprint method in every area of your life. I'm an all-in kind of guy, so I like setting short time frames and being very intense and getting the job done, which is really, really the way I think. Second big lesson I'm going to give everyone I've learned this week and probably month is go digging for the bodies. Now, what do I mean by that? By go digging for the bodies, I mean, where are the bodies buried in your business? Where is there something that's being hidden that you don't want to look at, that you know is not great? There's probably the one thing that's going to change everything. Because that's reality is normally the thing we don't want to do, that we don't like doing, is probably our weakness, and this is the biggest thing that's holding us back. And this is the value in terms of coaching, because you can have someone from an outside perspective look at exactly what you're doing and give you advice. And that's why I have 2 people currently mentoring me in terms of my business. So I get different perspectives in terms of, yeah, you shouldn't do this. Yeah, you should do this. And those people have done exactly what I want to do. And that's where you have to look for outside advice from your own head, because this gives you reassurance, but also it stops your cognitive bias and thinking that you're always right, because the most powerful saying is this: you don't know what you don't know. And you don't even know what you don't know what you don't know. Like, there's things that exist right now that I don't know. I'm like, oh my God, how did I not know about this? And that's where my urge to implement things so quickly comes in, because I feel like crippling pain inside me when I learn something that I should be doing. I'm like, how am I so dumb, Charlie, that I do not understand this? And imagine you behind the camera, or you listening to this right now, watching this, you've had that epiphany moment. What was the epiphany moment for you where you woke up and you were like, or someone told you something like, oh my God, I didn't realize this. And I'll give you a fucking banging example. I found out something yesterday for YouTube, we haven't done it yet, about how to potentially get videos to go viral with titles and search function. And it's insane. And it's so simple. I was like, oh my God, that for me was the epiphany moment. And I had that epiphany moment because I hired someone to teach me the thing that they were really good at. And this is where you don't know what you don't know. So the question I want you to ask right now, what is it you don't know that's stopping you achieving the success you want? Because this is the reality in terms of you're in a position in life you're not where you want to be, and you're getting overwhelmed and you're getting anxious because you don't have the answers yet, but you will. And no one in life will ever be successful on their own. I don't know anyone who's been successful on their own. Everyone has a team around them. Everyone has people helping them. And this is the most important thing you need to take away from this, is 3 things. 1, the sprint method. Work in short, intense couple of week periods, really, really intense. Planning out for 6 to 12 months is great, but it's bullshit, because in 12 weeks time, the entire world changes, your entire business changes. You need to actually like reflect and pivot. The world changes very quickly now. There is going to be more development in human technology and progression between 2020 and 2024 than from 1900 to 2000. That's how quickly the world is improving. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious right now, the secret for you is to do the sprint method, find someone who actually has a solution to the problems that you have and identify what those problems are, get digging for the bodies, and then just get at it. If you took a ton of value from this podcast, I ask you one thing: please take a screenshot, please share it with a friend. Anyone who tags me on Instagram or social media, I will repost this. Hope you have a wonderful day, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.